Hello and welcome to God Does Have Favorites. So, how many of you know that when you come to this channel, that one of the main purposes is for you to grow in your relationship with God? Okay. So, when you come here, like you're thinking your beliefs about God, they are likely always going to be challenged. Not because I'm trying to brainwash you, but because we have believed a lot of things about God, we have a lot of beliefs about God that are not consistent with who he is, that are not consistent with his character. So our channel is God Does Have Favorites. And a lot of us identify as God's favorite. But do we really identify as God's favorite? Because if someone is my favorite, that means I favor them. That means I do good things for them, right? Okay. So a lot of times we go through things that we end up blaming God for, right? Like we might not voice it, but like in our minds, we're thinking, well, God allowed that. Let me give you an example. Before we say, oh well, I've never done that. Let me give you an example. Say you're believing for your loved one's healing, right? And say they don't get healed. A lot of times we're like, well, if God wanted them healed, he would have healed them. That's that you might not be saying you're blaming God, but you just blame God because you said, well, it's God's fault because if he wanted them healed, they would have been healed. All right. I'm gonna give you another example. Say that there was a bill that you were believing God to pay that bill, to pay that bill or to provide for you to pay that bill. And the money didn't come through. And say you lost your car. You, I mean, you may say, well, I was believing God to pay that bill, but he didn't pay it. Like he didn't come through for me. How many of you know that every time that happens, it affects your trust in God, right? Because now, I was believing God for this, but God didn't do it. So, wow, I wasn't even going to say this, but let me say this. A lot of times, like God needs a body in the earth, right? Like we know the scripture that God sought for a man to stand in the gap, right? God needs a body in the earth. So he needs someone being obedient to him. A lot of times, God may be trying to use you to bless somebody that has a need. Like if you hear that voice, like bless them with $20. Yeah, that ain't Satan. He's not telling you to bless anybody. That's God telling you to bless that person because that person is likely believing God for gas money or food money or something. Like they might have all they need except for $20, and God tells you to bless them. Let me tell you how I learned that. Back in the day when my children were younger, I used to, like, I would go to work, come home, and I was a single parent, right? And I'd be like, man, God, will you please let somebody come mow my yard for me? Because I mean, like, sometimes I was so beat. I didn't have the energy. I just didn't have the energy to do it. And I remember one Sunday, I was at church, and this person came up to me and they said, I was, I rode by your house and I was going home to get the lawnmower to come mow your yard. But I started doing something else. And then when I came back, like the next day or 2 days later, your yard was already mowed. Now, normally that's just a normal conversation, right? But God said, Monica, God's like, Monica, listen, that's what happens. It's not that I'm not trying to provide for you, but I need somebody to do it. And if people are not obedient to me, then like it's not me, it's their disobedience, the reason that you didn't get your blessing. Okay. So remember that if God tells you to bless somebody because that person is trusting God to provide for them. All right. All right. So I wasn't even going to say that. But a lot of times when we feel like God don't come through for us, we lose our trust in him. Like we may have this real high level of trust, but each time God don't come through, we like, oh man, just a little bit more, until we're not trusting God and we don't even know we're not trusting God. We're saying all the right things, but we're not expecting anything, right? Okay. So think about it in the natural. If you tell somebody something, or somebody says to you, say you have a need, and you go talk to this person and they say, okay, oh yeah, I got you, girl, I got you. All right. So all right, now I need it by Friday, okay? Yeah, I got you. Like I'll be there. If I ain't there Thursday night, I'll be there first thing Friday morning. So Friday morning comes, and you calling them, you texting them, they not answering their phone. And they're not showing up. Like they were supposed to be there, but they don't show up. Are you gonna call that person the next time? Or the next time, if that person tells you that, oh girl, I got you, it's your trust is gonna waver. Like, wait a minute, they told me that last time and they didn't have me. So it's the same when it comes to God. Like we we don't trust people in the natural that haven't come through for us. So if you feel like God doesn't come through for you, you're not going to trust them. Okay. So one thing that you have to do when you come here is start trusting God. Like if God said it, then God's going to do it. Like if it doesn't happen, don't blame him, because the Bible tells us that God has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. So he's already done it all, right? We just need to be obedient. And when he tells us to do something, we need to do that. Okay, so this is the teaching for today. All right. So our scripture for the day is John 10:10. And we all know it. The thief comes not before to kill, steal, and destroy. But I, Jesus, that's who's talking, said that I came that you may have life and that you may have life more abundantly. All right. So we know that anything that comes from the enemy is meant to kill us, steal from us, or to destroy us. And anything that comes from God is meant to give us life, and not just life, but an abundant life, right? Okay. So as you go through your life and you encounter things, and we'll talk more about this in upcoming sessions, but when you go through life and as you encounter things and they are negative, or they hurt you, they kill, steal, or destroy things in your life, begin to renew your mind and really believe that, hey, that's not God. That is Satan. Like, don't just say the scripture, believe the scripture. Change your thinking. Because, and I'm going to give you an example of this real quickly, because like I consider myself, I have above average faith. Okay. Like I know like certain things that God has said to me. Like I try to believe the word. Like if God said it, I'm going to be the one that believes it. Right. So I remember it was probably maybe not quite 10 years ago, but probably about 8 or 9 years ago, that I was doing a breast exam and I felt a lump in my breast. So this is at the end of the week. Thank God it was at the end of the week. I endured this over a weekend. Um, so I knew that sickness wasn't from God, but I remember how angry I was that God let this happen to me. Like I didn't even have a diagnosis yet, but I was like God, I live for you. I try my best to like just do everything you tell me to do. Like, you know, my heart for you. And like, I can't believe you allowed this to happen to me. Again, I don't even have a diagnosis, right? So I don't think I ever voiced that, but in my mind, that's what I was thinking. But I just, like, with my mouth, it was like, God, I love you. Like, I don't care. I love you. I thank you for allowing me to live this long. Like, I thank you. Like, it's like I'm already putting myself in the grave. But the Bible told me God was my healer. And again, I'm an above average person with faith. It's a lot greater now than it was then. But even then, I knew what the word said. And I'll probably touch on that story more later. So they did the imaging mammogram, but then they did an ultrasound also. And it was nothing. But I've already decided, like, I've blamed God. I've put myself in the grave. But the Bible tells us that a strong spirit of a man will sustain them in the time of infirmity. So thank God, a lot of that stuff wasn't in my spirit. And my spirit sustained me, even though I was talking or thinking negatively, my spirit sustained me in that moment. And it was like this happened, like from the time I felt it to the time I got my mammogram, like I got in to get my mammogram, you're talking like 5 days. But it could have been longer than that. And like, just think about that. Like, the longer you sit in that place where you have this happening to you, the more doubt, the more unbelief it's going to come to your mind. It's going to attack your mind. And the more likely you are to start speaking that stuff out of your mouth, the more likely you are to attach yourself to that. The more likely you are to begin to put your faith in that problem instead of keeping your faith in God. So our main lesson or our main objective for today is start really trusting God. Like, God is not a liar. If God said it, then bank on it. Regardless of what comes, regardless of what does or doesn't happen, just remember God is faithful. Even when it don't look like it in the natural, God is still faithful. Okay? All right. So go be great today, because the greater one lives in you. Be blessed.